Well, welcome to the Sawyer On-Water podcast. Today we are actually filming an episode of the Heartbeat of the River. And we are very fortunate to be doing the Heartbeat of the River on the McKenzie River with one of the outfitters and business owners of the river that have been doing this for a long time. And so, with no further ado, I am going to let Jonnie introduce herself and we'll get started. Jonnie.
My name is Jonnie Helfrich, and I've been guiding now. This is my 50th year, 25th year on the McKenzie. The Helfrich family, into which I married, has been on the McKenzie River for 102 years now. We are now into our fourth generation of Helfrich guides. At one time, there were 17 Helfriches who guided. But we've lost members of the older generation. So it's just down to the third and fourth generations now.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that we want to try and convey to folks is that we're here on the McKenzie River. This is one of the gems of Oregon. And it has some very unique features of its own. But just in a brief capsulation, kind of tell us, what does the McKenzie River mean to you?
McKenzie River is just a little jewel, and what's nice is it's very close to the Eugene-Springfield area. The water is crystal clear. This is actually the drinking water for Eugene and Springfield. It's fed by not only snow melt, but also the largest underground aquifer in North America. So we always have water.
Nice.
All year long. Interestingly enough, as the water level drops, it actually gets a little colder because it's all coming from the underground aquifer and really doesn't have a chance to warm up. There's only about 60 raftable, paddleable miles unless you're like a really hardcore waterfall jumper kayaker person.
Right. So there are some other sections of the river that are run by what we call the extreme element of this industry. And
I'm not that element.
Right.
But it's just,
well, those folks don't take many people down the river either. They're kind of all about themselves and their own posting.
Definitely.
But.
And the one thing, having guided in lots of places and boated lots of places, this river has a boat landing every 3 to 5 miles. So you can literally carve out a section of whatever length, whatever time frame, whatever difficulty of rapids you want, and almost everybody can find some part of the McKenzie that suits their paddling abilities or suits what they're looking for.
Right. And also seasonality-wise is, obviously you get most people coming out to go whitewater rafting in the summertime, but is it something that you have a year-round seasonality on it? Are people out here fishing it in January?
The river runs year-round. It does not freeze over, but the fishing season is usually April through September, October. For the same reasons, we have a hatchery fish planting program. And those are the only fish you can keep, are the hatchery fish.
Right.
All wild fish have to be returned. So most people are only going to fish here when the hatchery fish planting program is going on, and that's April through September.
Nice. So, obviously, this river system here, you're right outside the Eugene, Springfield area. Also, you're not too far away from the Bend area, so you're really kind of got a full Central Oregon draw to this river. So that probably really helps just the economics of the river, because a lot of people can benefit. We just met you here at this boat ramp, where it was your typical boat ramp of everybody coming in to one boat ramp all at one time. And I think the heat today might have shortened some people's patience a little bit. But yeah, as a business owner, kind of tell us some of the challenges that you deal with just with those kind of things, and then also just some of the the economics of the river.
Part of the river is managed by the Forest Service. So anybody that works on this upper river section, we call it, have to have a permit from the Forest Service to be able to run the lower river, but I guess that's the difference. For we rafters, everything upstream of Leeburg Dam is considered what we raft. So
That's all the upriver.
we divide upriver from, we have an upper and a lower in what other people would just call the upper river, because that's for the rafters. A lot of the fishing guides and private boaters, because they don't come up here as much, they consider the lower river below Leeburg Dam and everything above Leeburg Dam the upper river. So that can get a little confusing when you're talking to people. But
and rafters and anglers kind of like to define rivers differently as well.
Yeah. Did you want to stop?
No, just slowing us down.
Challenges, most of the, like you said, today, I don't know why everybody was a little grumpy.
I think it was 105-degree temperatures.
Most of the time we get to the boat launch, every commercial outfit is super efficient. And we just know that if there's a trip in front of us, you'll wait your turn and they're going to get out of the way as quickly as they can, and we don't need to get snarky about it. So every once in a while, not. With the boat landings, just when we showed up at the launch earlier today, there was a family that had everything spread out on the boat ramp for their picnic and river viewing pleasure. And
absolutely. I mean, I think if we can do a public service announcement right here, right now, if you are watching this and you are not a boater, the boat ramp is not the ideal place to picnic because it is a boat ramp for boat access. And I think that's all on every river because the same thing, we roll up to our put-ins and it's just like, now what made you think that you could pull in here and set up your picnic because nobody was here? What you don't know is that everybody's going to show up in 20 minutes from now. But yes.
When 3 vans with trailers pulled up back to back to back, the one father actually said, yeah, y'all are pretty quick at getting your stuff in. It's like, yes, sir, we are. But if they had the staging area blocked with their cars. But usually we have to educate people. It's like,
absolutely.
Sorry to bother your picnic, but this is a boat launch and we need to launch our boats.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that. You know, one of the things, just economically, you know, you've got a lot of just the surrounding community as well that probably benefits as well as far as just lodging and restaurants and, you know, towns that are nearby. Obviously, some little towns like, was it Leeburg and Blue River, obviously really benefit from the activities.
Yeah, the McKenzie Highway is our 60-mile main street. I'm on the McKenzie River Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and the Tourism Committee. And we have a 60-mile main street. We have no incorporated towns on the McKenzie River, so getting anything done is a real challenge. There are a lot of, it's all volunteers, basically, and whatever fundraising we can do. But tourism is the big economic driver here. There's fly fishing, there's mountain biking, there's now the newest Oregon Scenic Bikeway, with outdoor hiking, which goes from West Fir, Oak Ridge West Fir, over Outdoor Heidi Road and comes out right where we started our trip. That's the newest bikeway. So we have road biking, mountain biking, rafting, kayaking. Not a lot of canoeists out here, but that's how I started.
Yeah, it's kind of an East Coast West Coast thing, isn't it? It's like you don't see that many canoeists out here. I myself did actually have a stint as a whitewater canoeer, and it was one of those things where I got into whitewater canoeing because I loved the Whitewater Challenge, but I was claustrophobic. I did not like the fact of going upside down in a kayak and not being able to actually get out and breathe. And so I did it for a while. I did it for a while with friends of mine, and at one point I just kind of looked at it, and I was always going boating with kayakers, you know. And so I'm dragging this big canoe, I'm running all this stuff that these kayakers are running, you know. I'm swimming more than they are, and I was just like, wait a minute. And so finally I was like, maybe I just should try. I should try and learn the kayaking again. And so I did, and I learned how to kayak. I kept them both for a while, but then once I learned how to kayak and got comfortable with the rolling part of it, then it was like, all right, I get rid of the canoe. But yeah, you know, I mean, that's just kind of one of those things. Is like occasionally when I was canoeing, you would see probably the same groups. You'd see some kind of from the Eugene, Springfield area that would come out. You'd probably see them here. You'd see them on the North Umpqua, and they kind of that busy class 3 water was ideal whitewater canoe water. Yeah. You know, but yeah, I think it's just kind of it's a East Coast, West Coast. Absolutely. You know, that's one of the things. Like, just people don't really realize, like, do the folks that are watching this a favor and just kind of, with your years of experience, kind of explain just some of that sense of just letting it go when you get on the river. Because, like, that's one of the challenges, like, especially like when you do corporate trips, there's always somebody in those groups that don't want to let it go, right? That they don't want to let the 19-year-old guide that knows what they're doing actually take charge of the boat. But it's one of those things, it's like, it's the beauty of going on the river is just letting that control go, getting out and, you know, paddling with a group of friends. But
well, I started as a cruising canoeist. So my family never got into it for the adrenaline rush. It was about being out where it's beautiful, being with people that we just love being around. And I was never into it for the adrenaline or what some of the guides I've trained. Training in the early season when the water's high and it's all about adrenaline, and then when the water level drops, they're miserable. When you still look around, and this is the prettiest office in the world.
absolutely.
And it's fun to be out here. I've been at this for 50 years, and there isn't, I feel like I should get bored. I don't.
You got a new group of people to entertain and give that experience to every day, you know? I mean, I used to guide. I guided for about 30 years, and I basically would always tell my guide staff that, you know, it's one of the most captive audiences you're ever going to have. I mean, you got 6 people in the boat, and you're going to be entertaining them the entire day. And, like, if you can't entertain that crowd and keep them connected, then we got bigger problems, because literally, you know, you should be looking at it as just a all-day stand-up act, because it's your show, your boat, and just embrace that whole crowd. And, you know, in the years that you've done this, I would be interested to hear your take on this, because I found that was one of the hardest challenges. Is like, first thing we want skilled boat people that can really just do the job, get the boat down on the river, and really kind of make it look effortless. But you know that they're solid and they're safe. And some of those folks are not necessarily the people and not the entertainer. They do tend to come around, right? And after a few years, as they get more and more comfortable, they tend to come around. But any tricks of the trade that you have noticed have worked, trying to bring those people kind of out of their shell?
Well, I've noticed younger guides in particular, and my children among them, didn't want to feel bossy. And it's like, well, you notice that you are a raft guide. You're not a raft boss. You're a guide. They don't know what they're doing. They need guidance. So when you ask them to paddle this way or that way, you're not being bossy. You're just letting them know what they need to know. And yeah, new guides, they're going to really focus on getting the boat down safely. That's their main focus, which initially...
That's very key, right?
That's what they do. And then we start working on, especially this river is not, in the scheme of things, a particularly difficult river. So I've always told my guides that your socialization, people skills are equally as important as your guiding skills. And you need to be engaging. And sometimes, you've been in it that long, sometimes you have people, they don't want to be entertained. They want to visit among them.
Right. Yeah. Some of them do just kind of tune you out in the back, and then you kind of have to interrupt.
And I only interrupt to tell them what I need to do. If they want to just sit and visit with each other, they're welcome to do that. I'll only interrupt when I need them to paddle so we don't get pickled.
I've seen guides actually take the tactic of where they're just, instead of interrupting, it's like, okay, no problem. You guys just talk amongst yourselves. Let me know when you're ready. And they're kind of like, oh, are we doing something here?
But I had one guide in particular, an amazing boatman. He's a world-class kayaker, but very quiet. And I talked to him one time. He says, I don't want to talk about myself. And you don't have to talk about yourself.
Right.
Just say, hey, Zach, what do you do for a living?
Right, great.
People are happy to talk about themselves.
And they love to talk about themselves.
And then you engage them in conversation, and there you go.
Yeah. And it's like, I think after they've done it for years and they get out of their shell a little bit, they start to realize that they're making some actual connections where people are coming back and requesting to be with them again, or are staying in contact with them through socials and everything else nowadays. Where like literally, I mean, I haven't guided a boat for 15 years, but I still get messages from people that I used to take down the river because they're just like, hey, I know you don't do this, but I'm going to be in this part of the country. Can you recommend someone for me?
Yeah,
and it's like, well, I've never paddled in West Virginia, but sure. Let me tell you the few people that I know out there. But yeah, there are those definite connections. And then also, you've probably run across this, is there's almost this burnout piece that happens where you get a good quality guide and they're with you for a handful of years, maybe in that 5 to 10 year range, where they start kind of looking around, getting antsy of like, I'm either going to buy something or I'm going to change what I'm doing. And I'd be interested to know if you had any examples like that.
Yeah.
Maybe some of your own children. I don't know.
Well, my own children just got roped back into the game. We noticed it at about the 10-year mark with them. And it seems that they've been with us so long that they have a bit of an inflated impression of what their job with us is now. It's that they're no longer just a guide, but like an owner. And that's not really the case. And I bring some of that on myself because I'm a people person and I treat everybody like family.
Right.
So it gets to the point where I don't have to, chastise my children. But I fully expect people to move on. I don't think this is a river where people are going to stay forever. If they want a bigger challenge, they're going to go to a different river. And I've had guys that have done that. I have a lot of guys that start with me when they've been boating their whole lives. So I pick them up when they're 16 and they guide through a couple, 3 years of college, and then they get really busy with internships. They're looking for that real career, as they call it. And I fully expect to lose people eventually.
Exactly.
I don't think anybody I don't think anybody would stay on the McKenzie forever.
Yeah, it is kind of that. It is that kind of that 10-year marker where it's kind of like if they're just solid guides and they don't display some of that, then you're kind of like, okay, I mean, maybe you're just comfortable with this simplistic life and this is what you want to do. But there aren't that many people that are just going to be like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And so then it's kind of like, are they plotting other things and we're just not hearing about it or what? But I noticed also, these are day trips you do here, but I'm sure through the years you've had experience on multi-day trips.
Well, we still have multi-day permits on the Hawaii and the Jonnie.
Gotcha.
And the Rogue. Our son bought his grandpa's permit, so he runs our.
Oh, nice. So yeah, and so that's a whole nother piece, I think, because the day trip stuff, if they're starting at a warehouse and ending at a warehouse, then you have that connectivity with them, and they're only really out of your grasp for maybe 10 hours, of the day. But with the multi-day aspect, there's definitely a little bit more of a training and a trust that has to be built, because I've seen this in cruise before where the owner is prepping the trip and setting the expectation for the guests, but the owner is not guiding. And so as soon as the guide staff gets them, it's kind of like, yeah, we just rode down around the corner and now it's our trip, right? And so it's kind of like, yeah, there's some definite challenges there. And I think
So far, we've been on every trip.
yeah, I think, but there are, and you're unique in that sense that that you are a very hands-on owner-operated run, which sounds like the way you operate. But some of these other operations that I'm sure you guys work with as just
Oh, yeah.
associates, and
Day trips.
and like some of them, the owner might not even be in this state. they could literally be in a different state. But yeah, I think there's definitely some challenges there. And have you dealt with some of that? Maybe before you were an owner as a guide, as far as some of that.
I've always been a really good worker bee.
Gotcha.
My boss tells me to do X. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't stray that way, I guess. And my guides know I consider an exceptional staff. They're very good boatmen. They're very good with people. They know that I care about them as human beings and that I take pretty good care of you talk about rigging the trips. My guides are spoiled. They show up.
Everything's ready.
Manually top the raft, strap the raft down and go. Everything's packed, everything's ready. And it's mainly because if I didn't have something to do, I'd be bored out of my mind.
Right.
Because I spend most of my time in the office now. So I do have to trust that they're running a trip the way I want it to be done. And my guide calls in now when a new guide comes along. I just let them know. It's like, okay, so-and-so is new. Take them under the wing. The way it is. And I tell all of the guide people who reach out to us to be hired by us, yet I'm very picky about my guide staff. You're not only protecting my business, but you're literally protecting 100-year family legacy. And in the real world, most people don't know one Helfrich from another. So if something were to happen on our ship, it would reflect poorly on all of
every trip, right? Every Helfrich.
We can't do that to each other. So
yeah, it's too small. It's too small of an industry, It's just like, it's amazing how much everybody knows everybody. And like you said, yeah, they may not know of this exact Helfrich group, but they know the name.
Right.
And there have been Helfriches on these rivers in the West for as long as most of us know about running rivers.
Okay, Prince started in, I always thought it was 1920, but apparently it was 1923. But he started here at the time that river boats looked more like flat bottom bateau style boats.
Right.
And through a process of different people on different rivers building different patterns, Prince, the patriarch of the guiding community of our family, helped with the design. Somebody would design a boat, dear Prince, give it a try, he'd go try it. It's like, you need to fix this. And so they fine-tuned the design to where now that boat, if you get a good oarsman on a difficult river in a drift boat, it's like watching an artist. You love it.
Oh yeah. And that's where it came coined, the McKenzie River drift boat.
Yeah. And having come from back east, the first time I saw it, my canoe club ran the middle fork of the salmon and had them in the Raft portable things. I made the mistake of calling it a dory.
Right.
So I was quickly corrected. And I was also quickly corrected that they are not fishing poles, they are fishing rods. So now I know. But
there you go.
Having come from back east, I knew nothing of the Helfrich name.
Yep. And also, there's just
important.
on this river, there's a lot of those old timers that were around at that time and kind of have grown through it. I don't really know, but are there other multi-generational groups in this valley that you know of that are actually still in this
Billy Pruitt. Oh,
So the Pruitts
and
as well, yeah.
He guides. He has his own business, but occasionally he'll help us as well. But Belty and Prince were pals, and they're the ones that they did. They filmed. They were extras on Abe Lincoln, which was filmed here on the McKenzie.
Nice.
They also were filmed a movie called Shooting the Chutes, or Shoot the Chutes, which was the Deschutes.
Right.
And that was shown, that was filmed in 38. It was shown at the 38 World's Fair and the 39 Expo down in San Francisco Bay Area, which is why a lot of the fishing guests originally were coming up from the Bay Area. Because they had seen that movie with this guy and they wanted to go with this guy and that guy, and that's how the fishing business really got going. And at the time it was all native fish. You could keep 75.
Right. Well, it's like the same thing. Like, I mean, I think Billy is like, it was probably, fathers of his that were like in that Road Canyon in the 60s was like, like the B.A. Hanton and Jerry Briggs and Mel Norick.
Yeah.
Like, just some of the real old timers. And now, probably just similar to this river system is on the road system. There's a lot of title changeover where it's just kind of like a lot of these folks are kind of getting older. And like you said, it was your son that just bought the canyon trip. And I know that, like I've noticed on Kenny's trips, is that Kelsey or Kid or some of the younger guys are really on more of those trips. And so like that's a lot of it is like that's something that is a very unique Helfrich thing, I think.
Yeah.
That, your whole family name, besides the fact that you just mentioned how, if something happens on one Helfrich trip, it affects all Helfriches, but which is also very unique. But the same sense of like literally just having that generational step and being able to keep your children engaged in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can share with us some folks that have outfitting businesses, like a lot of the guides I've been interviewing, they're at the very other end of it, right? They're basically, their kids are, 8, 10, 12, but it's like kind of, you want your kids, you show them the river, you share that experience with them. I think just kids growing up as an outfitter family have a very unique experience because they, like, if nothing else, they have the world's largest bouncy house because they have a warehouse they can go to at any time with their kid. But it's also that unique thing. It's like literally you keep that child engaged and like you said, go through college and get a degree and then still stay in the family business. That's very unique.
And they both apologize that they're not using their degrees. It's like, well, neither are your mom and dad. You come by it on it. But we really would just take them down to the side.
That's all right. I don't melt.
I worked on the middle fork of the salmon until my daughter was 2 and my son was 4. We had great caregivers, but Aaron and I came out at the end of that season. It was like, somebody should probably stay out. And since he was pretty much running his dad's middle fork business, that was me. And summer was approaching, and I like looking around like, what was that? I haven't not been on a river since I was guiding since I was 16 and having withdrawals. So that's when we officially started a Helfrich outfitter in the rafting business. And both kids, I give them a choice. If I had the right kind of crew in the space, it's like, what do you want to go rafting or do you want to go to the baby stuff? My kids, when they were little, they didn't really like this section of river. They liked the lower river because they could look forward to there's some individual rapids that are just big.
Right.
And they could look forward to those. Like, well, if we're doing this, it's not sure. So they got addicted pretty early.
They formed their opinion early of what they would go on and what they wouldn't.
And then they just stuck with it. And it became summer employment. And then, both of the kids had a plan to not do this.
Right.
But both of them are right back into it. It's just Aaron and I were both into it for the passion of being where it's beautiful and being on free-flowing rivers, and it wasn't about the paycheck. And guys that get into it they're going to be sorely disappointed first of all. But if you're into it for just the paycheck, you miss so much of what this job is about. And our kids get that part of it.
Right.
They get that this is beautiful. I mean, we recently had a fire, so it's not as beautiful as
Exactly.
it's still beautiful, and the water is still crystal clear.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like kind of in this business, you kind of learn to just kind of take charge of the things you have control of and enjoy it. But like you mentioned, fires are just kind of one of those things. Nothing we can do about it. And, it's unfortunate, but every river community is pretty much in a mountainous setting.
Oh, yeah.
And so every river community is dealing with fires. My experience is most people, if you give them a rain check, they make it a point to come back. Some people's lives just get busy and they're only on the West Coast for that one trip.
Right.
But most people, if they live on the West Coast and you rain check them on this one time through your area,
Yeah.
typically they're going to come back.
Yeah.
Because people really appreciate that.
They remember people doing the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
So we were talking a little bit just about the economics of the river.
Yeah.
And
Lots of companies.
lots of companies.
Lodging properties, we did lose quite a few in the fire, but the others have, they're pretty full in the summer season. McKenzie Chamber and people are trying really hard to come up with shoulder season ideas. Winter's pretty sparse.
Yeah.
Most people are passing through to get to the ski resorts over in the Bend area or up at the top of the Cascades here. But there are very few people that stop and stay.
Yeah, that is just another challenge that you have as a seasonal business owner is sometimes you lose staffing to just their own curiosity because they choose to go explore something in that off season. Some of them do pursue the endless summer and go to some equatorial area and literally just like really find that they love just boating year round.
Yep.
And others are in the ski industry or something that complements it. But I think that is probably one of the bigger challenges is to continue to keep that staff. Like, say you do want to just make sure you're getting 10 years out of a guide, is like, making sure that they come back every year after year. Probably a lot from, you have folks that you start them in high school, and then they do go to college here locally. You probably got them through that period. Yeah. And then do you have times where you've just built a rapport with folks that you have folks that come back and just guest guide for you that,
occasionally
reach out to you and like, hey, I'm in the area and I've actually just...
I do, but a lot of them want to be paid under the table.
They don't want it to show up.
I'm a rule follower. So it's like, I've got enough staff. I've had guides that say, hey, I'm in the area. It's like, oh, cool, maybe we'll see you on the river.
Right.
But unless they're willing to go through the whole paperwork rigmarole, I just don't want to do anything that's not right.
Right.
Because I don't want to lose my business over something silly like that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we've got people that, most of my guides, like I say, until they, grow up and move away, most of my guides stay. And because a lot of them are teachers, I get them in the summer because they're teaching locally in the office.
Right. And that's a whole nother group of folks, right? Yeah. For that, teachers make great river guides because as long as they're still very excited about teaching kids and they're very excited about the teaching in general, because then they don't mind having a classroom of 6 every day. But I have had, and you have maybe experienced this too, but I have had teachers on river trips and Before that house?
Yes.
Okay, let's go into this eddy over here. I've had teachers on trips, and there's maybe 15, 20 people on the trip, and the couple teachers will come up to me and say, "I'm with kids all the time. I don't want to spend my recreational day." And you're kind of like, "Okay, I got you."
See, and Leah told me to make sure I told one of her favorite things is when she gets kids, and they start out and they're timid and a little bit afraid. And after a while, the smiles get bigger and they get more relaxed, and then they're laughing and giggling. And there's nothing better than watching.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Experience.
It's like when you take kids on the river, it's like you have this opportunity to early on put that hook and that bug in them. Because, kids on the river are just one of those things, because especially if you can actually get a kid boat, like if you have multiple families and like all the
adults,
parents, all the adults will go on their own boat, and then it's the kid boat, and the kid boat's like, yeah, it's just us and this guide, we can take them. And they just kind of take it on, and it's just like that whole banter and engagement with the kids on the river is like, it's a floating playground for them. And it's just
Sometimes
ideal.
we try that and the parents will not.
Right. It's almost got to
They
be,
don't try, and I'm
it's
like,
got to
"Hey,
be kind of a natural
we've done
flow,
this
right?
before. We know what we're doing, and they're going to have,
Yeah.
they're probably going to have more fun if they're not. And you might have more fun if you're not.
I find that it does happen a little bit easier on the multi-day.
Well,
when
yeah.
when they're with the kids for 4 days, they're kind of like, a day away from the kids, that sounds good, that's fine. Do you have a guide that really wants to do that? And be like, oh yeah, we got the perfect guide for that.
We'll nominate somebody else. But sure,
Yeah.
we can make that happen.
But also, I mean, kids are just so curious too.
Yeah.
And like when you're at camp, you can take them, just agate hunting on the beach. It's just amazing. And you can also just they love to just once you start getting that storytelling, you've got the engagement, then you can just keep it going.
Yeah.
And you're just filling their little imaginations. They're just like, oh yeah, which is great. So
you sound authoritative and not tell them anything.
That's right. Well, I've
Sounds like
always
the
said
truth.
that it's not what you say as a guide, it's how you say it.
Yep.
And if you can sell it, then you can pretty much tell it all the way. Every once in a while you have boats that trade off through a multi-day and they start to fact check some of your tales, but you just kind of like, oh no, that person's wrong. They don't have their facts right. They're just not as well versed in it as I am.
Right.
But it's kind of one of those things that, the whole piece of being a river guide has a lot of similarities to just being an entertainer. Just like literally, this is a captive audience. And you really want people to enjoy that. And those folks, like the guides that are really quiet, I think after a few years, I don't know, maybe it's just a comfort thing. But the more comfortable they get, the more animated they get. So, Jonnie, I noticed you have a Sawyer guide paddle there. Tell us about that. When did you get it? How many years do you have with it? I always bring Sawyer paddles along with me, and we were getting in the boat, and Jonnie showed me her paddle. Says, can I take this? I'm like, absolutely. That is a Sawyer guide stick from back in the day.
Well, interestingly, in 2011, a guide worked for me, and he bought this. And then he's a commercial fisherman on the coast. And he left. And he left his paddle. And
He was
kept
like,
saying,
I don't need
do
it.
you want your paddle? He says, no, you can keep it. So I was like, sweet. So we kind of acquired it
Perfect.
from one of my guides. But yeah, it's a perfect length for a 14-foot boat. And I'm confident in its ability. We used to guide with wooden sticks in West Virginia too. And some of them, we had a few break.
Right.
So haven't ever had an issue with this paddle, so I like it. And it's fairly lightweight. But I grew up as a canoeist, so I grew up as a paddle rafter. I didn't actually learn to run oars until I was losing all the water fights on the lower McKenzie. We gotta get across.
Gotcha. All right, as we go across, I would like you to share one of your favorite stories of the McKenzie River.
There's so many.
Nobody's gonna know which one's your favorite. So.
I would have to say, oddly enough, even though I'm a raft guide, my favorite times on this trip are when I get to sit in the bow of my husband's boat, because like I said, I married into the Helfrich family, but those who grew up in it, they put history and the stories, and he majored in biology, so he can give you the Latin names of every critter and every bird, but it's just being out here. And my favorite story is when I'm with kids. Again, I like kids. I used to tease, but I still like kids.
Exactly.
But I love being with the kids and seeing them just get all excited about it.
So before we let you out,
Hold on.
I'm gonna want one more story, which necessarily would not be your favorite memory, but one of the most epic incidents that you've had to deal with in the last 50 years on the river. Just one.
Rescuing someone from what probably would have been a deadly strainer.
And what river was that on?
Gauley River, the upper Gauley. And I had a crew that had been with me multiple years in a row, so I knew their ability. And I saw the guy, and he was literally wedged between two rocks, holding on like this, and his entire rest of his body was under the rock, so that if he let go, it wouldn't have been pretty. And I used my big girl voice, and I told my crew that we're here to save this guy. And we eddied out, back down. The guy sitting next to me grabbed hold of him and just looked him square in the eye and said, "We have got you." And the guy looked at it, and he believed him, was true. And he let go, and we pulled him up, and I still get goosebumps. Knowing that I had the skill and the knowledge to be able to help him. It just...
Well, thank you very much, Jonnie. Thank you for spending this time with me. I know that doing this at the end of your guide day, it's definitely not the thing that everybody's looking forward to, but we did get a little bit of shade, so it is cooling down a little bit. For any of you out there watching this, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. It was 105 out today, so Jonnie did an amazing job to just keep her composure and entertain us for this last few minutes of her day. But if you enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your river community. We'll put all the information down on this Helfrich outfitter here on the McKenzie River. And of course, there are many Helfrich outfitters all around if you start doing your searching. But please, when you get out on the river, be patient, be kind. And if you want to find anything out about Sawyer Paddles and Oars, check us out at paddlesandoars.com. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the river. Well done.